Hello everyone, I'm Elliot Khazali. Thank you for joining here on my presentation. In this presentation, I'm going to announce 4 new games made by myself. I hope you are really excited to see these new games as much I am excited to show them to you. But before I do that, I have an important update regarding of the name of my games. In my past games, my games always start up with a little message from me, and that the game was marked as made by myself with my own name. However, this is going to change from now on, as games that I'm going to reveal here in this presentation and games far in the future will no longer be marked as made by myself with my own name, but instead it will be marked with this name instead: Smart Khazali Production. Yes, this is the company name that I'm giving myself. I've been thinking about giving myself a company name for a very long time. So when I looked at the quality of these games that I'm going to show to you now, I now decided that I'm going to give myself a company name. So the next time when you see a game where it is marked as made by Smart Khazali Production, you know that it's from me. And speaking of this, most of these games that I'm going to reveal will be announced and released on Gamejolt, like usual. So because I am giving myself a company name, the name of my Gamejolt account will also be changed to Ali El Khazali / Smart Khazali Production. Just so people would not really get confused with who this account exactly is, and the older followers will still know that this is me. As I'm speaking now, the account name of my Gamejolt account is now changed to Ali El Khazali / Smart Khazali's Production. So I hope you are alright with this change here. Alright, let's start off with announcing the first game in this presentation. The first game here I'm going to announce is a fan game, but it's not something to do with Oddworld at all. But it is a fan game of something else. In fact, it's actually an HD fan remake of a 20-year-old PC game. So, without anything else to say, take a look and enjoy. So, what do you think? Recoil HD is an HD fan remake of a 20-year-old PC game called Recoil. But I know for sure that plenty of you would just ask, what is Recoil? Well, it's pretty understandable because the original Recoil is pretty underrated. There aren't really many people that know about this game. Recoil is a vehicular combat game originally made by a company called Zipper Interactive and was released way back in 1999. If that company sounds familiar to you, then that's probably because they have also made another classic game known as MechWarrior 3. And Recoil HD is an HD fan remake of this game. This is the original game made by Zipper Interactive, and this is my HD fan remake. The remake is pretty much the same as the original, and it behaves pretty much the same, but the only difference is that the graphics are much more better. So, you might be wondering, what is Recoil about, especially the original? Well, I haven't really got the whole story line in my head, because this is a very, very long backstory. But I'll give it my best shot to explain it all to you as much as I can. Recoil is a game that takes place very long in the future, where an evil scientist group has turned humans into mindless robots and used them to control tanks around the world. But there are a small group left who aren't really controlled by these evil research lab. And what they do, they pick their best soldier and go on a mission to destroy their research lab. And everything else relates to this. So what you're doing is, you're playing as a tank called Battle Force Tank, also known as BFT. And here you have to complete various missions, destroy tanks, collect ammo, and new weapons. The original game has 6 different levels, where each of them you will have to destroy something different related to this evil research. Once you reach the final level and destroy the main target of all of it, you have completed everything and saved humanity. I tried my best to recreate Recoil as much as I could by myself, but I can't really promise that I will just keep everything that is from the original game, because I can already tell that Recoil HD was the hardest game that I have ever developed. Yes, even harder than the other games that I'm going to present in this presentation. So I hope you really understand that this HD fan remake is not going to be accurate to the original game. Even though this fan remake has been developed for a very long time, it is still considered to be very early in development. So I don't have so much to show to you. As far, there will be released a demo of the remake with the first level playable, and respectively all the aimos, the enemies you will encounter as well. So that's the only thing I can show to you now. The first level is some kind of a beach level where you have to open some different gates to destroy some machines as well, or whatever it is. They are some really weird buildings, huh? Once you have completed all the missions, a plane will just show up and bring you to the next level. But not in this demo. Now, since I don't have so much to show, I would also like to go a little bit into detail in what exactly you can see in this demo. I would like to start with the tank itself. What you can see is the tank has 2 guns and a weapon at the middle. You can use the guns by holding the left mouse button to shoot and the right mouse button to shoot at with the middle weapon. That middle weapon you can see is called molecular bullet, as it shoots some heavy bullets. But that's not the only weapon the tank can have. It can also equip another weapon and use them as well. But to begin with, you start off with this weapon. And throughout the level, you will find new weapons and equip them. Once you have equipped them, you can use them. Each button on your keyboard will change into this weapon. But since this is a demo, you're not gonna encounter so many new weapons. These weapons you're going to see in the demo is, for example, this. The Napalm ammo cannon. This one shoots with fire. And once you shot one of the enemies with fire, they will go on fire and slowly lose some HP. But you need to keep shoot at him because the fire will soon die out. The second ammo you will see is this, the proximity ammo. Did I pronounce it right? This one shoots landmines. Shoot it far, and when it will land on the ground, it will explode when an enemy is approaching. But there is also one upgrade to the guns as well. You can see that they are blue, which is the weakest weapon in this game. This weapon is called Rapid Fire Pulse Gun. However, you can equip a red gun, which is called Enhanced Rapid Fire Pulse Gun. This one is much better than the blue one. It shoots much faster and is a little bit more stronger. So it is best recommended that you use this one instead of the blue one. But of course, you will also run out of ammo when you're using these weapons. But don't worry, you will see plenty of ammo all over the level. And once you collect them, you can collect more. You can even get some ammo from enemies when you shoot them, depending on what ammo they are using by themselves. In the trailer, you saw some footage of a dark abandoned city. And you will probably think, what was that even? Well, it's not really a spoiler when I tell you this now, since you can technically already see this in the original game. But this was a little preview of how the final level in Recoil HD is going to look like. The final level is an abandoned city. In the original game, it was a lot more brighter. But here, I turned it much more darker to give it a much better feeling. But of course, it wouldn't be playable in the demo. But I wanted to give you a little preview of it anyway. I would also like to give you a little sneak peek of how the final level looks like in gameplay. Take a look. Before you begin to play my HD fan remake, I highly recommend you go check out the original game before you play my remake, if you can. But if you can't find a copy of the internet, there are plenty of gameplay videos on the internet as well, just so you can see a little example of how the whole game looks like. The demo of Recoil HD will be released on 19th December 2020, and the full game will be released somewhere late 2021. Well, that was Recoil HD. Let's move on to the next game in this presentation. This next one is something that I have been working on for a long time, but I haven't really announced or teased anything about this game. Not until now. Take a look. Yeah, that's right. Oddworld Maker is a fan-made level editor where you can make your own Oddworld levels. Based off the Game Boy Color game, Oddworld Adventures 2, this is a level editor where you can create your own Oddworld Adventures 2 level. You start off with a blank level, and then you have to pull out some object into your level. There are plenty of different objects to put inside your level, and in different shapes as well. Some of them are even mechanical as well, and because of that they require a bit some work to put on your level. And sometimes you can't really do it by yourself, so you need some help with this. This is why Ben is here to help. Simply press I on your keyboard during level editing and Ben will show up. When he shows up some boxes that shows some problems that will probably similar to your problem. Is any of them similar to this problem you're facing? However, if you want some questions about a specific object, simply point your mouse at the object on the toolbar and press I on the keyboard, and Ben will explain it to you. Yes, even those objects that doesn't do anything at all. But for the mechanical object, such as the bone saw, for this one you really need some help. Ben will likely explain to you how you build the bone grinder from part to part. Once you have found out, you'll be easy to go and use it on your level. Just like in Oddworld Adventures 2, Abe can do pretty much all the thing he can do in the original game as Cell. He can run, jump upwards, climbing up edges, chant, roll, and even sneaking. The only exception is the game speak is not included, and this even means Mudonkons are not even here as well, unfortunately. I can only tell that not everything from Oddworld Ventures 2 as in this level editor at all, and would not be. I can already tell that when I developed throughout the game, I lost a little bit of motivation to continue. So, this game will not receive any updates, whether it's for new content or bug fixes. You're going to get the game as it's going to be. But anyway, back to the game itself. There's not only about adding new objects to your level, but there are also some fancy settings as well. You can also change the background color of your level. There are plenty of colors to choose, so choose one that fits very perfect for you. You can even change the style of the level itself. There are 3 versions of it, since Oddworld Ventures 2 is not a huge game. There are the industrial theme, the Paramoni theme, and the Scrapini theme. When you choose one of the themes, the object will change respectively into the style of the level itself. Not all of the object will change, since they don't really appear on the original game. But this could open up for a lot of creativity. And of course, you can also save your levels. You can save up to 10 levels. Before you create a new level, you'll have to name it first, so that when you save it, you can see the name of your level. And you can also see that each level has an icon of its own. The icon will change depending on what kind of level theme you have chosen. If, for example, if you choose an industrial level theme, the icon of your save file will be the icon of an industrial level. On the right side, there are more fancy tools as well. On the top, you see this one called build mode. This is the standard mode for when you put some stuff into your object and build. Underneath it is drag and drop mode. With this mode, you can now move the object around that you have already placed if you did a little mistake. They can be freely moved around anywhere. Once you have decided where they have to be, put the game back to build mode and you're ready again to do it. Before we continue on with showing the settings, there's also another thing you have to know that you can do with your keyboard. You see that there's also grid lines just to put the object perfectly into your level. But if you think the grid lines are annoying, you can remove them by pressing H on your keyboard. And if you want to put them back, just press H again and they will show up. You can also delete object on the level by right clicking on your mouse. Next one is the camera settings. You can change the camera movement in 3 different ways. The first one is the standard camera. This is the standard mode for the camera movement. The camera will follow Abe wherever he goes. But if you want to go classic, there's also freeze camera mode. The camera will freeze on its place until Abe leaves the screen and the camera will follow him, just like in Oddworld Ventures 2. But if you want to make some challenging levels, you can also make the camera move automatically. When you choose auto mode, 10 different hit markers will show up with each of their numbers. The camera will follow the hit markers from numbers in order. For example, the camera will move from hit marker 1 to hit marker 2 and from hit marker 2 to hit marker 3. You can freely move these hit markers around on your level so that you can create your own custom camera movement. And of course, you can also put some music on your level. those music are originally from Oddworld Ventures 2. There aren't that much since it's only a Game Boy game. And lastly, there's the settings, with some extra stuff to change. It's not that important, but I think you should go check it out for yourself, if you want to. Now, since Oddworld Maker was not made as expected, the game will release today on Gamejolt, right after this presentation. So stay tuned for more. Alright, that was Oddworld Maker. Let's move on to the third game in this presentation. This one is a game that some of you, not many of you, but some of you has requested me to do. So I did it, but with an extra twist to it. Take a look. Yes, that's right. Five Nights at Rupture Farms is back with a remake of all the first 3 Five Nights at Rupture Farms fan games. Remade from the ground up in Unreal Engine and bundled into a 3-in-1 game. But please keep in mind that Five Nights at Rupture Farms Darkest Trilogy is a spin-off game and is not supposed to continue the horror series at all, but it's just here as a bonus game. Now, since this is a 3-in-1 game, I'm going to go through each of the games all by one in detail. And starting up with the first game, Five Nights at Rupture Farms 1. Five Nights at Rupture Farms are seeing a huge upgrade in Darkest Trilogy, from being a draw game to a full-on 3D rendered horror game. But not only that, even the atmosphere has changed as well into a much darker and sinister atmosphere as well. The original game was pretty broken, but here in this remakes, most of these bugs has been fixed here as well. So I can guarantee that the remake is almost a bug-free game. But not only that, in the original Five Nights at Rupture Farms 1, each night took literally 15 minutes to complete. However, this has now been reduced because this was ridiculously long. What have I even done back there? And of course, the jump scares themselves has been improved as well to be much more scarier. Another change Five Nights at Rupture Farms are facing in Darkest Trilogy is the fact that you are no longer receiving some messages on a phone call, but on a tape instead. You will see the tape on your desk. But not only that, even subtitles are added to each of the tape as well, just so it will be easier for the player to understand exactly the backstory of the game. Now let's move on to Five Nights at Rupture Farms 2. Well, the second game hasn't really got so much graphical upgrades in Darkest Trilogy, since the original game already had a dark atmosphere. But there was still something to upgrade for the second game. The game plays much more smoother as usual, and even the controls itself has been changed. Usually in the original games, when you have to light up or closing doors, you basically click them with your mouse. However, now you have to do it with your keyboard, as each button has a button of its own on your keyboard to interact with. It's easy to remember throughout the game, or maybe not. In the original Five Nights at Rupture Farms 2, whenever a Modoc animatronic approached you, it actually didn't matter which one of them approached you, since all four of them behaved pretty much the same when they approached you. However, this is going to change in Darkest Trilogy. Each of the Modoc animatronics behaved differently the more they approached to you. However, I'm not going to spoil to you how they are going to behave. I think it is something that you'll have to experience by yourself. But I can already tell you it is going to be a lot more challenging than before. And of course, there's also the withered Modocs. They pretty much behave the same as in the original game, but also has been upgraded a tiny bit with how they show up in the darkness. But for this one, I also don't want to show it to you, because I really want you to experience it by yourself. The original cutscenes from Five Nights at Rupture Farms 2 returns as well, and this time they are now working perfect, with literally no problems at all. Because in the original game, I literally had to create two different versions of Five Nights at Rupture Farms 2. One with the cutscenes and one without, since most of the computers could not really play them. This is no longer a problem in Darkest Trilogy, since all the computers that plays this game can now play the cutscenes perfect. And also, the menu screen has got a really neat upgrade as well, with a much darker atmosphere as well. Now, let's move on to Five Nights at Rupture Farms 3. This one is taking a new role, unlike the first two games. Instead of being a point-and-click game where you move into a specific location, it is now a full-on free-roam game where you can freely roam around the place. Now, since this is a free-roam game, this means that the challenges will also change as well. Now you don't have to survive until 6 AM, but instead you'll have to verify your night by pressing some levers around the place. And once you have pressed them all and pressed that little device on your desk, you have now completed the night. Sounds easy, right? No, of course not. The more you progress on the game, the more harder it gets. And that means more monsters will roam around the place. So that means you'll have to find a strategy to press all the levels without the monsters getting you. And of course, the nightmares are here as well, where you are in the bedroom. And they are also free roam as well. But that doesn't make them easier from the original, as the nightmares in Darkest Trilogy will be a lot more harder, because you need to react quickly to let the monsters get away. The behaviors are pretty much the same, but seen in a different way, since this is a free roam game. Just like with Five Nights at Rupture Farms 2, the original comic dubbed cutscenes are here as well. Five Nights at Rupture Farms Darkest Trilogy will release at 26 December 2020. Well, that was Five Nights at Rupture Farms Darkest Trilogy. Let's move on to the fourth and last game in this presentation. This one is actually not a fan game, but instead is my first ever indie game. And to be honest though, I'm actually a little bit nervous right now, because unlike making a fan game with existing characters, with existing levels and existing mechanics as well, it's something else with an indie game, as you are basically introducing a whole audience into a brand new game with brand new characters, brand new places, and brand new mechanics as well, and you aren't really sure by yourself if they are going to appreciate it or not. So, I really hope you are going to welcome my first indie game in open hands. So, without anything else to say, please enjoy. Have you ever experienced this before? That you have played a game you think are really good, and you wanted your grandparents to try this game by themselves. But every time they try out a game you suggest them, they think it's too hard, even those with the simplest control ever. That's why I want to introduce you all to super easy video games for the older generation. And what is that, you might ask? Well, it's a game made specifically for old people who think video games are too hard or never played video games at all. Super Easy Video Games for the Older Generation is a minigame collection with 50 different minigames sorted in 5 different categories. They may look like they are hard to play, but once they get their hand on the minigames, they will realize that they are easy to play. To make sure that the elders is getting a good experience from playing the game, most of the minigames' button actions has been reduced. For example, if there's a game where the elder player only needs to press 2 buttons to progress through the game, it will be more than enough for them to do it. But if it's a game where they need to press a lot of buttons, it can be too much for them, and they will definitely forget all the button functionality. Every time the elder player wants to play a minigame, they will get a quick tutorial video on how to play the minigame. These tutorial videos are easy and clear to understand because there are no disorienting effects, no music in the background, just straight up a white background where it only shows what buttons you have to press and the minigame itself. The tutorial videos are made for any elders with any kind of difficulties of using technology. For example, some elders do know the basics of using a keyboard, like using the arrow keys to move an object around and space to jump. But some others don't even know how to use a keyboard at all, and there can be many reasons. This game can be played with either a keyboard and mouse or a controller. Depending on which one of them you are using, the game will automatically change the tutorial videos to this one you are using right now. If you are using a keyboard, the tutorial videos will show how to play these mini games with the keyboard control. And if you're using a controller, it will show how to play the mini games with the controller. Well, now it's time to introduce all 5 categories and all the mini games. Miscellaneous games is a category with no specific topic. Here you can try a lot of random minigames. For example, you can drive super fast in ultra speed racing, run away from a dinosaur in a long hallway, jump across different obstacles in a forest, playing a 2D platformer game, but the camera focuses on a big wall instead, reach the goal before the time runs out, prevent a warplane from destroying these houses, fight against a bunch of aliens on a UFO, you can create your own pizza, spin the wheel to get the puzzle pieces, throw some darts to win a plush toy. If the elders are the type that likes retro stuff, retro style games are the perfect category for them. Here they can try out some tennis, golf, or even baseball. They can also shoot some spaceships in this arcade style space shooter minigame, race around in this retro styled racing minigame, try to steal the farmer's apples without getting caught, eliminate a bunch of aliens that are trying to take over this building in this retro styled first person shooter minigame, try to escape from prison in this 19 style 3D minigame, try to catch students that are trying to skip school, or deliver a mail to a specific house in this old school style film-made minigame. If the elders wants to challenge their brain, puzzle games are the perfect category for them. Puzzle games has puzzle minigames and luck-based minigames. They can play a really normal jigsaw puzzle, play tic-tac-toe with another physical person, remove the blocks from the tower without letting the tower collapse in Jenga, play the well-known car park puzzle, send a water drip through a long pipe, but only one of the pipes leads to the right direction, move around in a dark labyrinth, escape from spiders, but only one of the doors leads to a trap. Try to guess which doghouse gets the most dogs. Guess which ball would fall all the way down to the bottom of the ball arena. Make sure that the packages reach from in to out without the packages falling down. Imagine that the elder player is alone, and there's literally no one nearby to help him out. But don't worry, Of course the elder player won't be alone to get some help, because there'll be someone to guide the player throughout the whole game. Let me introduce you all to Jacob. He's the one that will guide the player throughout the whole game.
Hi.
He's actually the one that tells the elder player how to play the minigame in those tutorial videos. Now, since I introduced Jacob to you, I can now introduce you to the fourth category. Jacob is not only there to help you out, but you can also have some fun with him in his own category. You can play some memory game with him, or playing some Ludo or Snakes and Ladders with him. Press the buttons in the rhythm of the piano. Try to memorize how his head looked like and build his face from part to part. See how fast you can pump an air balloon. Test yourself how fast you can react. The lights went out and you need to go inside the basement to find new fuses. While I reveal Jacob, I will also reveal a new Oh, right, I almost forgot. This is Figurine Jacob, a little toy version of Jacob. Which brings me now to the fifth and last category. Unlike Jacob, Figurine Jacob jumps into wild and dangerous minigame. Chase a lizard in a desert, run and jump in a house, or in the forest. Escape from a big shark while you're trying to reach the goal. Climb up a tower as a 2D character. Find a UFO and destroy it. Avoid a giant monster's attacks. Defeat a giant dragon from the underground. Jump around on ice floes to reach a ship. Or keep running upward to reach the goal. Figurine Jacob also shows up in one of Jacob's minigames in his category. For example, Jacob can race against Figurine Jacob in this arcade style minigame. Or in this minigame here, Figurine Jacob is here to help Jacob finding 4 guitars buried in the sand. Well, that was all the categories and all the minigames. But we're not done yet, cause there's one important feature I want to introduce you to this game. If the elder players begins to struggle in a minigame by dying over and over and over again, don't give up. If the minigames are still too hard for the elder player, there is a feature in this game called Assist Mode. Assist Mode can automatically detect if the player begins to struggle in a game, and when it does, it will help the elder player to progress through the game. Assist Mode behaves differently in every minigame, but most of the minigames it behaves mostly as a giant hand trying to lift up the player, or a bunch of arrows showing where the player should go. Keep in mind that some minigames do not support Assist Mode, mainly because it's not necessary or it will be cheating if there was Assist Mode. But if the elder player wants to challenge themselves, they can change the difficulty of Assist Mode in the settings. Assist Mode has 4 different settings to change. For example, the highest settings is: if you die 2 times, Assist Mode will help you. If you die 5 times, Assist Mode will begin to help you. If you die 10 times, Assist Mode will begin to help you. Or if you don't want any help at all, you can turn Assist Mode completely off. Well, that was all we've had for super easy video games for the older generation. So, what do you think? Well, unfortunately, this game was not really made for you, but for all people instead. But you definitely think that all these footages look so cool that you probably would ask me the question, is this a game that I, as a young gamer, would also enjoy? To be fair, there are no clear answer to that. Because like I said, this game is specifically made for all people who never played video games before or think it's too hard. So if some of you young gamers played it, it will be ridiculously easy for you, as you will have completed each of the mini games quickly and in no time, and they will even be ridiculously easy for you as well. But I had a group of young people who tested the game out for me, and they really seemed to enjoy it. So this is why I'm saying that there aren't really any clear answer if you are also gonna enjoy this game as well. The best thing I can say is that you probably have to try out the game by yourself before you decide to buy the game. Oh, right. Did I also mention that this will be the only game in this presentation that is not going to be for free? Yeah, that's right. Not only is this my first indie game, but you also have to pay to play for it. But don't worry, there will also be a free demo to try out. And I think the demo is a good opportunity to see if you enjoy the game by yourself or if you want to decide to actually buy the game. Now the trailer pretty much covered everything important about the game, but I do also want to cover up some extra stuff that was not revealed in the trailer. First, I want to say that some footages showed in the trailer are some very early footages, so some changes will be seen in the final game. And also, there was also some stuff that was not revealed in the trailer that I'm going to reveal now. When you go on settings, there will also be an advanced settings. The advanced settings doesn't have that much, but it has graphical change, so you can reduce the graphics if you probably has a low computer. This is especially effective and useful, especially since a lot of old people don't really have gamer PCs. So that's why I put it in the graphical settings. Usually in most games you can always manually set each part of the graphic settings of your own, but to make it easier for the elder player, each graphic has been put into a different type of class of graphics, from high to low to very low. As mentioned in the trailer, you can choose to play this game with either a keyboard and mouse or a controller. Usually in most games you'll need to go into the settings and change the control support to either keyboard or controller. But for this game you don't have to, as you can directly change from keyboard to controller at any time, and the game will immediately recognize it and even change the interface of the game itself into the controller or the keyboard you are using. This is also to make it much easier for the elder player to play around on the game. However, it is not really recommended to switch between keyboard or controller in mini games, because once you have played the mini games with the device you are using, there's not really any way you can stop now and change during in-game. Next, I would like to talk about the music itself. All of the music here are made by Alexander Recoil, who is also the same one who recreate all the music for Narwhal as well. So he made a return here to make some music for this game. But there is another composer as well who is joining for this game here, which is Mioisen LFX. And I am extremely proud to have some of his music art here in this game. He's incredibly good at making some music. So I really recommend you go check him out somewhere on his platforms. But Alexander will stay as my main composer. So there are definitely more musics from him than from Mioisen LFX. And speaking of the music, there's also a little feature that I've added just to make it a little bit comfortable for all kind of elders. The music are great and also makes the experience of each of the minigames good. But of course not all elders will appreciate these types of music that will play in the minigames. Or some people will just think that the music are distracting. So this is why I've added the feature that the elder player can turn on and off the music anytime they want. Simply just press the middle button on your mouse and you have disabled the music for a limited time. And if you want to turn it on, you can just press the middle button again. On controller, you simply just have to press the select button and you can do the same here as well. Now please understand that some minigames do not have the on-off function, but only goes the first way around until you get a game over or return back to the minigame selection menu. So what is exactly the point of creating super easy video games for the older generation? Well, this game is made to give the elder people a small taste of real gaming. When you think about elders and video games, what comes to your first mind? Well, for me, what I'm thinking is that elders just play some low budget games. Because whenever the elders want to play some games, they always go for the games that are easy to play and understandable as well. And for most of the time, it's always some casual low budget game. So that means they don't really get the chance to try those big high quality video games and experience all the cool stuff of them. So that's why I made this game, to give them a small taste of real gaming by delivering mini games with high quality, amazing music and unique gameplay as well. And all easy and understandable as well for them. So if you decide to buy the game, I really hope you're going to let your grandparents try the game out for themselves. Now since this is an indie game, this means that I have much more opportunities for this as well. So this will released on Gamejolt to begin with. But if the game succeeds very well and will become really popular, then there will be a chance that it will also be released on another platforms as well. And when I say another platforms, I do mean places such as Steam, for example. Super easy video games for the older generation will be released next year at 7 January 2021. However, the demo will be released somewhere late 2020. Well, that was the last game in this presentation. Although I do have some bonus information I would really want to tell you about. It's not something necessary, but I think you should know it anyway. In Baldi's Basics Plus, you can view the credits were all those people who helped working on the game, and also those people who kickstart the game for itself. And you can see a lot of people who help donating for this game. And among all these names, you will also see a very familiar name. So, that's all for this presentation. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you were really excited for all these games, and also excited to try them out as well when they get released. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. But wait. Hold on a minute. Something seems to be missing here. What about these characters? Are we ever going to see them in action again? Well, remember when I said that Five Nights at Rupture Farms' Darkest Trilogy was just a spin-off game and we're not supposed to continue the series at all? That's because the series has moved on to this. In the previous adventure, a group of UFOs attacked the Mudokons, and they were ordered to find a factory that could lead up to the UFOs and destroy them. So they did it and saved the day. But what happens exactly after that? So, allow me to announce the 5th game in this presentation, the sequel to Fnar World. That's right, Narwhal is back, bigger and better. And this one is taking a new perspective of how being a FNAF World fan game. Instead of being a top-down, sprite-based 2D RPG game, It is now a full-on 3D free roam game where you can freely run and jump around a big world and battle enemies. Just like with Recoil HD, Fnar 3D World is also considered to be very early in development. So, I also doesn't have that much to show for this game so far. So I'm going a little bit into details in this game. Starting with introducing how the characters looks like. The Modokans have gotten a slightly new upgrade with their design. Now they look much more like real Modokans. This is how they looked like in Fnar World, and this is how they look like now in Fnar 3D World. The design of their Modokans are aimed to look both realistic and cartoony at the same time, just so they keep their same familiar look from the previous game. Some of the characters has also gotten a little bit of change in their design. For example, Happy Wither Modokan has now a palm hair. This is to make it easier for people to see who's Wither Modokan and who's Happy Wither Modokan. Because when you think about it, the only difference is their emotion. Toy Happy Modokan has also got a little change for his design. Usually he always holds his guitar on his hand all the time. However, now he has a belt on his chest where he carries his guitar on his back, because he definitely needs both his arms. Once he goes on battle, he picks the guitar on his hand and uses it for his attacks. Let's also introduce the enemies a little bit, especially with the Sleeks. This Sleeks model has been used for so many years, and for almost everything, even for the first Narwhal. And finally, the Sleeks are now getting an upgrade. It looks almost similar to the original Sleeks from the original Oddworld games. And speaking of Oddworld a little bit, sure, this is a FNAF World fan game, and the name of the game is called Fnar 3D World. But I don't really consider this so much as a FNAF World fan game, since 19% of the game's content is mostly focused on Oddworld, while 10% of the game is mostly focused on FNAF World content. So because of that, when the game is going to be released on Gamejolt, it will not be featured in the list of FNAF fan games, since it has a low reference of FNAF World gimmicks. But even though it's not going to be in the list of FNAF fan games, it is still considered a FNAF World fan game, after all, since it at least has a few references of it. To start with, there will be released a little demo to showcase a small bit of the game. And in the demo, there will be 3 playable big levels, which are Paramonia, Necromines, and Moonsight Lines. Each of them are a huge world where you can freely run around and jump on them and explore the world itself. And of course, let's talk about the important part of the game, the battle system. Just like in the first game, you will see enemies roaming around the overworld itself, and once you go face to face, a battle will start. The battle in Fnar 3D World is pretty much the same as the first one, but it has been improved much more better. It is now much smoother and much better to handle. Some of the characters' attacks have the same attacks from the previous game, but some of them has replaced their attack with some new attacks as well. As well as some of the characters' attacks has been either buffed or nerfed. And speaking of this, Fnar 3D World is technically the very first FNAF World fan game ever made in Unreal Engine, and pretty much also the first Oddworld fan game made in Unreal Engine as well. I will also point a little bit about the age rating of this game. First one had an age rating of 3+, since it has some fantasy violence as well. However, FNAF 3D World is going to have the age rating of 7+, since it's going to have some mild violence and will also have a little bit of dark atmosphere as well throughout the game. I would also like to talk about the amount of characters that are going to be playable. The first game, 32 characters were playable. However, this roster is going to be cut drastically, as there are only going to be 8 playable characters in FNAF 3D World, which will be the first 8 characters from the original roster. And this is mostly because I'm not really gonna focus on making the game having a much larger roster, but more about making the environment and the whole universe itself much better. And also because since I also think that most of these characters would not really work in this new environment. Now, I'm not done here with introducing new stuff, because there is one important part of the game that I haven't really revealed yet, and that I decided to save at the end. Take a look. That's right. Not only is this a 3D game, but it can also change into a 2D game, just like in the traditional Oddworld games. Because it's not an Oddworld fan game without being a 2D game as well. When the game changes into a 2D game, the whole game completely changes as well. In 3D World, you basically run around in an open world and battle enemies. However, in 2D World, you cannot battle enemies, but will instead have to find a way to get away from them in a bit of a strategic way. When I say that the whole game changes, even the controls itself changes as well. The control behaves literally similar to the original Oddworld games. You move, you can run, you can jump, and you can even sneak and roll as well. Every world in FNAF 3D World will have a 3D world and a 2D world. Every world is a 3D world in standard, and reaching some specific places in each world will turn into a 2D level. However, the game can also change directly from 3D to 2D, and the opposite. FNAF 3D World will be released at 14 January 2021. And for the full game itself, it will be released somewhere at late 2021. Well, that was FNAF 3D World. Although I do have a small game as the 6th game in this presentation. It's just a small game, but it's not a big deal, but it's a game anyway, so check it out. Yes, that's right. Narwhal Arcade Edition is a game that can be run on a real Game Boy. Because this, yes, it's a Game Boy game at all. Which means that you can dump it on a Game Boy flash card and play it on your own Game Boy. Now, since this is a Game Boy game, this means that you can also play this game on any device that can emulate Game Boy games. So if you don't own a Game Boy games, it doesn't matter. You can just easily emulate this game on any device you have. Narwhal Arcade Edition is mostly a tech demo, so it's not really a full game. It is mostly based off some of the minigames from the first Narwhal, as it has 3 minigames inside, and 2 of them are based off Narwhal, while the third one is an extra game. The first minigame is Wither Murdokin's Adventure. The level is almost the same as the original one, but also pretty short. The second one is versus Lake, where you have to race against Lake to the top of the goal. If you don't reach the goal before time, you will lose, but if you reach the goal, you will win against Lake. The third one is a brand new one called Find the Guard, where you basically have to roam around Rupture Farms and have to find the guard. But yeah, like I said, it's just a small game, but at least it's something. Narwhal Arcade Edition will also be released today on Gamejolt right after this presentation. Okay, for real this time. This is now for real the end of this presentation here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you were really excited for all these games, and I hope you're going to try them out anytime when they are going to get released. There will probably be releasing some further information about some of those games that have been announced here in this presentation here in the future. So stay tuned for more. So that's all for today. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.